This old space used to be a loo with a great view, and because this week I need to excavate on the other side of this wall, I'm going to be finding out what sort of sewage system is at the other end of this old drain pipe. And hopefully, after 50 years not being in use, I won't be needing this mask. Somewhere under here. Tidy up this whole is under there, which I medicine bottle, drainage channel with a view down there. The loo is on the other side of this wall, and its waste outlet and its sewer is somewhere under here. And as part of the pretty substantial repair work that I need to do on this whole section of the house, at the beginning of it, I'm going to need to put in a whole lot of concrete along the base of this wall to make sure that it's going to be strong enough for the future. But before I can start any of that work, I need to tidy up this whole area here and then move a fair amount of earth, especially in this area above the old sewage system. First up, I need to drain some of the water out of this water deposit so I can move it into a slightly different place. And now while I wait for the deposit to drain, I'm going to cut back all the plants and grass in this section. I'm going to be cutting the grass on that bank up there, but I figure while I'm down here, I may as well tidy up this whole area so that it's a little easier to use going forward. When I took down all the structures that were in front of this part of the house, the old buttress or cube that was there and the wall that was there, I put all the stones along here, thinking that it'd be useful to have them nearby, but I probably do actually need a bit more space for when I'm doing the work in there. So I've now got to shift all of these stones over the edge and try and organise them along that slope below. Shifting the rocks off here was actually a little bit quicker and easier than I expected. And the added advantage now is that if I do want to use any of those rocks, with them spread over the slope, it's a lot easier to see their overall shape and size and to pick one or two of them out. So that's a good thing. And now I've got to shift some of this earth because I need a bit more space at the bottom of the wall there, but I do still need to keep the ramp so that I can get stuff easily up to the front door. So I've basically got to shift it a couple of meters to the left and put a bit of a curve in it like that. I've made pretty good progress at clearing out this section this morning, and I've now reached what appears to be the edge of whatever structure is in this area here. So I'm going to do a little bit of tidying on top, move a bit more of the earth to smooth out the ramp, and then we'll do some proper investigation as to what is under there. It's a bit clearer now that this is a brick structure, and the top you can see quite clearly, but I'm not quite sure how far it extends in that direction. So I will just spend a bit of time excavating a bit more earth there, with the caution that I don't want to have to move all of the ramp too far in that direction. I think I've taken enough material off the top to know what I've got to look at, and I will take a closer look at it. But I've also created a big pile of rubble that I've now just got to make sure I can smooth into a ramp. So I'll work on smoothing that out first and then come back to take a closer look. I think this part of the ramp is looking pretty good now. I'm going to have a bit of a break and then I'll come back and I'm going to smooth out this section. I'm going to have to move some of the earth down here. I'll take a little bit of this wall out, but I'll leave a lot in there because until it's ready to have the concrete poured, the architect suggests that I keep as much of this wall in place as possible. So I'll take a break and then back on it. At this stage, I thought you might appreciate a toilet break from this part of the work. So here's a quick clip about the old loo on the other side of this wall. When I cleared this space, one of the things I did keep hold of was the old door, which was about here. And the reason I've been calling it a loo is because of the inscription on this door here. But now I'm not so sure that it actually says loo. Might it be 100? Might it be Jew? I don't know. If you've got a better idea, please let me know in the comments in the video. The other thing I kept hold of was this old seat and its old lid, which I thought was quite fun. But now I'm not exactly sure what I might use it for. So again, if you've got an idea for how I might use this, let me know in the comments section. And then finally, here's a quick look at the view that someone in here would have been able to enjoy. I'm pretty pleased with this ramp. I think it'll be relatively easy to use, apart perhaps from this drain pipe, which I imagine over the next few weeks I might need to move around a little bit. With the ramp now done, I'm going to get on with the main exercise and uncover a bit more this old brick sewer. I will clear some more here, but for now I just want to check how much work I might actually have to do to excavate under here. So I'm just going to do a little bit of digging in this section. I really wasn't sure what I was going to find under here. I thought it might just be a drain pipe going down the slope, but there's a little bit of a brick tank under here. And I think that in order to show it, I'm just going to tidy up the top And then unfortunately I have to take all these bricks off and excavate the stuff out from in there, because at the moment it's got quite a lot of rubble in there that's quite difficult to pick out. All I've really got to do for this work is to find out what is against the base of this wall, so that when I put concrete underneath it, we know how much work we might have to do before. So for this section, in reality, I could just rip it all out very quickly without looking at it. But now that I've uncovered it, it feels like I've got a big itch that I've got to scratch, and I want to see what it actually looks like and what the design of it was. So I'll probably waste a couple more hours trying to figure out how best to unveil this. With some slightly brighter daylight, you can see everything a little more clearly. And after a night thinking about how best I might dismantle this and be able to share it on a video, I've now got a plan as to what I'm going to do. And first up, I'm going to clear a little bit more earth from on top of here, just to confirm whether this line of tiles is really the end of this part of the structure. And then I'm going to take a few tiles off the top of here to investigate what happens with what appears to be a drain in this section. And now that I know the drain goes in this direction, I'm going to take out some of this material to make it easier to get into there. And then next I'm going to knock out this cube here, hopefully without breaking too much of the wall here. That's the idea, at least. So this is a first and last look at what I think is an old brick septic tank, because now I'm going to start taking the tiles off the top and the bricks out of this wall to see what's underneath. The rubble is now out and I'm down to the remnants of the septic tank, which I do need to take out just to find out how deep this is, to understand what the level of the concrete might need to be. And in case you were wondering, no, it doesn't smell. Thankfully it wasn't too deep and there was nothing in there to give me a shock. Only things I did find were these 2 very small teaspoons and this very small medicine bottle. These, I imagine, are a bit more recent and were thrown down that hole. This looks a bit older. I'm not sure how it would have got there. Now I'm going to have a break and then I'll come back and do a bit of tidying up afterwards. Because all of the work that I'm doing in this area relates to getting it ready for putting concrete along the base as an exterior foundation, there probably are 2 more bits of work that I'm going to need to do in this area around this old septic tank. The first one relates to the actual brickwork for it, especially the brickwork against the wall. At some stage, I'll need to take that off and just check whether it's integrated into the wall and whether it's going to cause structural problems. But I'm definitely not going to do that while I'm on my own, and definitely not until I've spoken to my architect about it. The second bit of work, which I will do now, is just to check how far below those tiles on the bottom the bedrock could be. I'm just going to lift a couple of tiles up and just check the depth of the soil. I'm certainly not going to do any more excavation work today. From tapping in this bit of rebar into the soil below those tiles, after about 10 centimeters, I was definitely hitting something that was very resistant, which I'm guessing was the bedrock. I might be completely wrong and there might be another structure under there, but I'll go back to the architect and tell them that, yeah, I think the bedrock is probably about 10 centimeters lower than the bottom of this old tank. And then from a very quick dig in this part here, I think it looks like there might be a part of a wall that probably supported the edge of the septic tank, and there's definitely remnants of wall there and there, all 3 of which might have some sort of structural role, so I don't really want to touch them until much nearer the time. And I think it's unlikely that any of this section is going to go deeper than the bottom of the septic tank. So I think for the purposes of my work here, I'm pretty much done in understanding that the excavation before concrete pouring is going to need to be at that depth all the way along this wall, all of which I need to confirm with my architect. And now for a final clip about this bit of work. Here is a zoom in at this structure, which has given me a bit of a surprise and about which I don't know very much. First of all, there is the old waste outlet, which I could see beforehand, that comes from the loo on the other side, and that appears just to drop into this septic tank. I had been expecting to find some sort of drainage pipes taking waste much further away from the house. Therefore, it's been a bit of a surprise to me to find this brick septic tank, which is completely enclosed, apart from this one tube section here, which is filled in at the top. And I imagine that might have been an air vent. but I am no expert on sewage systems, so if you've got a better idea, please let me know in the comments. And then the final structure that I uncovered in this area was this old drainage channel here. And it appears to come from here, and I'm not sure what it would have been for. It could have been for rainwater, or it could have been for more water-based waste from the house. Again, I don't know the answer, but if you've got a good idea, please let me know. And having finished my new ramp and the excavation of the sewage system, I could get on with some different work on some excavation or back in the house. But I got a slightly different idea based upon the fact that I mentioned that that old loo behind there was a loo with a view. I've shown clips of this view a number of times now, but a few people have asked me to show more of the local area. So I thought I'd take this opportunity that rather than do some more work, I'll show you what goes on down there. So if you're only interested in videos about sewage systems, you might want to drop off now. And to get down there and the two nearest villages, I'm going to be going by bike. This is one of the few roads that crosses from one side of the hills to the other, and I believe it was built about 100 years ago to connect the two towns on either end. This side is slightly longer and slightly less steep, but has even more bends in it as it winds down the side of the valley. Cycling is really popular in Girona, and this is a favourite route for a lot of people, so you always see a lot of cyclists in both directions. And because of the bends and the gradient, it's almost as quick to get down the hill on a bike as it is in a car. But that's definitely not the case for getting back up the hill. The road moves towards the bottom of the valley, where it crosses a few streams and then runs alongside streams that all start higher up in the hills. And when you reach the slightly flatter parts, the first fields start to appear. Vale. Hey! Hey! And then the forest stops and it becomes farmland and fields, and you can see a lot more old farmhouses. And then after about 25 minutes on bike, you reach the nearest village on this side of the hills. And the first thing you see is the popular local restaurant Can Met View. I'm sorry about the bouncing camera on top of my head, but hopefully you're able to get a sense of the village and its buildings. In the centre of the village, all of the buildings are very old and all made of stone, and some of them are a little grander than the other ones. All of the villages in the area are quite similar to this. They tend to have a small number of old, narrow streets that centre on a plaza, often with a very big church in the centre. Now I'm back on the bike to go to the next village, which is about 10 minutes away. And I'm taking the slightly shorter back route along a track rather than the tarmac road option. One of the reasons I mostly ride a basic mountain bike around here is because of the hundreds of country lanes and dirt tracks that create a beautiful and peaceful network of connections between the villages. And when spring arrives in a few weeks' time, all of these roadsides become covered in wildflowers, and you see all sorts of birds and butterflies. This next village is called Monels, and it's one of the most visited villages in the area. But I've never seen this many cars in this part, especially not on a midweek day in February. Then I started to hear some drums, and I realised that this might not be a normal day or a good day to visit on a bicycle. To try and get a better look at what was happening, I cycled around the village to go in via another entrance. But I was a bit late here as well, and whatever was going on, the procession had got ahead of me. So I tried one more option for getting into the main plaza, where I figured the drums were heading. This time I had got ahead of the party, and I got to see what was happening. Although I didn't have much time to work out how to film what was going on. I wasn't sure how much of the festivities to include in this video, but I thought some people might want to see it all, so here it is.
No se sent? Ara se sent?
And then after the drums had stopped and I had seen the dragon, I did a quick walk of other parts of the village. A lot of villages and towns in Catalonia have vaults and archways in them, but I think these ones in Monells are some of the most beautiful. And in midsummer, after a long walk or bike ride in the sun, they provide some very welcome shade in which to enjoy a drink.
¿La primera o si la segunda?
I've not yet been able to find out what the party was all about. St. George, or Jordi in Catalan, is the patron saint of Catalonia, and from the dragon in the procession, I think there must have been a connection, even though it's not yet St. George's Day. It is, however, the start of the carnival season on the Costa Brava, and I suspect the costumes might have been for one of the bigger events this week. I'll try to find out. This is not the ending that I had envisaged. I thought I might be able to cycle calmly into the plaza, order a drink and tell you a little bit about the village. But if I thought that finding a septic tank on the edge of the house was a surprise, cycling into the middle of a carnival in a medieval village at the end of February is probably even more of a surprise. Unfortunately, I'm not able to join the party down there, as I've now got to cycle back up the hill to the house and then go home. But I hope that you've enjoyed this short trip down the hill and this quick look at two beautiful medieval villages, of which there are many more around this area. And if you've enjoyed this, or if you haven't enjoyed it, let me know in the comments, and I will either do more of these types of visits or I won't.